All right, good evening to all of our viewers in Arkansas, Oklahoma, and in Southwest Missouri. I'm Joshua Weisel here. Let's step on into your forecast. We're into short sleeves again today because it's incredibly hot. Now, we put in a mobile short on our social media this evening. Our recording station, we have a little, weather station that's on the building here. It was recording 116 heat index values at our station. Now, keep in mind that was a little bit more in the direct sunlight, so maybe a little bit higher than what it actually was at the official recording location. But I got to say, it's incredibly hot. In fact, actually, Okmulgee today in Oklahoma, it recorded 123 heat index value. And if memory serves me correctly, I believe the record for Oklahoma for the highest heat index value was actually 126. I'll have to go back and kind of dive through that information. Moral of the story today, it was incredibly hot, and unfortunately, we may not be done with it yet. For tonight, though, the good news is this evening, it's going to be hot. There's going to be a chance for some pop-up showers, even an isolated thunderstorm, kind of like what we've seen today. But there is a system that's going to be moving through, and that's going to lead to some cooler temperatures. Notice southwest Missouri, northwest Arkansas, that's where we have those cooler temperatures into the lower 70s. There's some good news there. Now, it is going to be in the upper 70s for the Tulsa area, Stillwater, all the way down to the Arkansas River Valley. So it will be warm in some areas. By no means is tomorrow going to be significantly cooler, but compared to today, I'll take it as a win. Lower 90s into the mid 90s for a large portion of Oklahoma and northwest Arkansas, southwest Missouri. River Valley still into the upper 90s, close to some triple digits, but at least it's not today with highs upwards of 102 to 105 in locations. And even better news, there is going to be a heat index tomorrow, but it's not going to be the 115 degree range thanks to that system. So we do have some good news on the way. Here's a look at what we got. No highlighted risk for severe weather in our neck of the woods, so there's some good news there. Further in northeast Arkansas, though, there is going to be a risk for severe weather this evening, but not for our coverage area. Rain chances, the algorithm's doing a pretty good job picking up on the potential for some isolated pop-up showers, even an isolated thunderstorm or two. We've already seen that this evening in some locations. It's really not going to be an active evening by the most part. I will say, though, the Weather Prediction Center, shout out to them. They do these what they call quantitative precipitation forecasts, or the forecast, or the 24-hour forecast for the rainfall. Pretty good job, I will say, and it's really tricky when you get into these little kind of like, spotty areas, right? And their guess was pretty spot on today, so shout out to them for this forecast, because it actually did highlight those areas that developed with pop-up showers in northwest Arkansas and even northeast Oklahoma. It wasn't perfect, but it was pretty close, and that's hard to do when you have these days where you get some spotty pop-up activity. Good news is, still going to be a little bit too warm, a little bit too humid, and, we're still going to be in that range in temperatures that it's not going to be all that significant enough for widespread fog activity, anything along the lines there. Here's a look at what we got from the Foghorns Morning Fog Outlook. It looks similar because, the outlook has been pretty similar over the last several days. Here's a look at what we got from the Foghorns Morning Fog Outlook. Huge shout out to them. Thank you so much to Foghorns for sponsoring our channel. Please support them like they support us. And you can visit them in Springdale and in Fayetteville. And if you want to see your company logo on a graphic like this, we're looking to advertise. We're looking for some sponsors, and feel free to contact us today. And you can find our contact information on my social media, my Facebook. That's Joshua Weisel, Weather225, or on weather225.com. Hit the advertise with us section. Huge shout out to Foghorns. We really appreciate them. Go support them like they support us. I hate to be the bearer of bad news. We got more extreme heat on the way. I'll let you know when here right after this break.
If you like our media and forecasts, be sure to support us today on Patreon. You can advertise with us this storm season and throughout the year. Contact us today for availability and pricing. Weather225 since 2015.
All right, welcome to this extended forecast section of the show, and we're going to be talking about the system and the extended forecast. Now, I mentioned that there is a system that's going to be moving through. Here's a look at what we got for this evening. A cold front's going to push through later tonight into tomorrow morning, and that's going to bring those cooler temperatures, right? I say that in quotations because still some upper 90s by tomorrow in some locations, otherwise lower 90s. So it's not like we're going from 110 to 75 degrees. I wish that were the case. I really would prefer if it were 75 and sunny all the time, but the good news is at least there's some temporary relief. The problem is it's not going to last real long. Another thing to highlight, and here's a look at what we've got, and the tropical activity in the Gulf. This is Tropical Storm Bertha, and yeah, it's still at tropical storm levels. I will say it's not the most impressive system that we've seen by any means. It is going to bring some heavy rainfall to coastal areas from Texas all the way into Florida, even maybe some active areas of some thunderstorms and maybe some tropical storm force winds. Nothing super significant. Fortunately, not a category 1 or anything along the lines there. We'll keep an eye on this activity. This is going to be important though, because it's going to arrive to the Texas coastal area by the time we get to the weekend. And the reason that's important is, notice the cone kind of curves a little bit further up to the north. We're not expecting any sort of widespread rain from this, so I don't want you to think, yeah, we're going to have a tropical storm in Arkansas, right, or Oklahoma. The problem with this is it's going to bring a surge in moisture. So when we get to the 7-day forecast, we've got some triple digits back on the way, and this may bring, by the time we get to late week into the weekend, more of that moisture, and that'll continue into next week. We may be dealing with some more extreme heat before you know it. In fact, the temperature outlook going forward still into the well above average. Now, our system isn't able to load in the hazards for the Climate Prediction Center with those, their hazardous extended forecasts, right? But I will tell you, and we did post it on social media, so visit us on Facebook to see the image. We are under a high risk for extreme heat in our coverage area next week between the 29th and the 30th. And this forecast is still kind of just, kind of proving the point that the heat's not going away anytime soon. There is kind of some good news depending on, your thoughts on the rain. We're still in that average, range for precipitation, which means it's not going to be completely dry, but it's also not going to be completely rainy. We may have some, activity by the time we get to Friday. We'll show you that with the 7-day forecast. There's going to be a little wave that moves through, bringing some rain and thunderstorms to parts of the area. Otherwise, for the foreseeable future, pop-up activity, depending on the day, may be a possibility. In fact, let's get into that 7-day forecast here real quick, and let's show you, right now, we're being a little bit conservative with the numbers for the weekend into early next week for Northwest Arkansas. And the reasoning for that, and I'm highlighting this real quick, it's going to be a dramatic difference for some locations compared to others. Northwest Arkansas is a little bit tricky because, it sits kind of in a valley at the official recording station, and that's at Drake Field. Northwest Arkansas, for the official forecast, I think it's still going to be in the upper 90s. I want to hold off on the triple digits for now, but I have a feeling that they're going to make a return based off the latest forecast. It's just when you start to get to the 6 to 7 day range outside of the near-term forecast, it gets a little bit more uncertain. But for other areas, I think it is a little bit more certain that the forecast is looking back into the triple digits, and that's going to arrive by the time we get to the weekend for the River Valley. Triple digits Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. I will be completely honest with you. There were some models that were looking at higher numbers than this, but keep in mind sometimes the models are a little bit dramatic the further out you get. But with the extended forecast, it is looking quite hot once again. We're going to have the humidity factoring in. Some heat index values will be pretty absurd, if you ask me. Now, Friday, there's going to be some rain chances Northwest Arkansas, River Valley. Right now, a little bit less in eastern Oklahoma. The heat is going to be the main highlight. 104 by Sunday. How far is it till fall exactly? I'm really hoping that this kind of speeds along and we get to fall before you know it. I'm not a fan of these temperatures personally. I'm sure many of you aren't as well. Southwest Missouri, a little bit higher rain chances by the time we get to Friday, and then triple digits by the weekend into early next week. So it's going to be hot once again. In fact, beyond the 7-day forecasts, once we get to around the 29th and the 30th, we may be talking about, it's hard to say if it's going to be exactly like what we saw today, but it may be close given the latest guidance. So we'll keep an eye on this activity. We'll get you through the summer heat. We'll get you through any type of weather. That's why we're here 24/7. Keep it here with Weather 225. Stay cool. Have a great rest of your day. We'll have more tomorrow morning.